If you think dopamine retargeting is harmless, live service games are quietly turning your rage into the very metric they track to keep you playing. When your anger gets routed into smarter offers and timed rewards, you're not just frustrated in the moment, you're being trained to progress until you can't tell where the fun ends and the pull starts. Live service feeds turn dopamine retargeting into a progress engine by weaponizing near misses and emotional spikes. When your game loop promises a win, then hands you a stutter instead, your brain treats the stutter like missing information, not like failure. That difference matters, because dopamine is not just a pleasure signal. It is also a learning signal that updates what comes next. Notice how the moment you feel, "I was so close," is the same moment your brain wants more data. A push can feel like determination, or it can feel like anger, depending on how the game frames the gap. Either way, the feed keeps resurfacing the gap until the loop starts to feel like momentum. You see it in your own feed behavior. One more match looks like effort. One more alert looks like control. The erasure is just the emotional fuel you get when the system keeps changing the terms of what counts as progress. Fun is, in classic work, neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz recorded dopamine activity in monkeys during reward timing experiments. When rewards arrived exactly when expected, dopamine responses shrank. When a reward arrived earlier than expected, dopamine spiked. When rewards failed to arrive, dopamine activity dipped. Track how surprise inside timing, not happiness, drives the dopamine signal. That signal is called a prediction error, meaning the brain compares what it expected to what it actually got. In everyday life, think of checking a delivery. If the package appears early, your body perks up. If it fails to appear after the now timestamp, your attention gets sharper. Low service feeds mimic that mismatch with notifications, timers, almost they're a task. A weekly raid window that just opened. A reward bar that looks close enough to buy. A matchmaking queue that feels like it will finally deliver. The feed uses those changes to keep your prediction error alive. Berridge and Robinson described incentive salience as the brain's way of tagging cues as worth chasing. Incentive is the pull you feel towards something. Salience is the loudness of that cue in your mind. Their idea helps separate wanting from liking. Consider how a notification can feel more wanted than enjoyed. That is incentive salience at work. You can hate the grind and still crave the next attempt because the cue predicts potential payoff. In daily life, that is the slot machine effect. The sound of the lever does not taste sweet, but it pulls your hand back anyway. Retargeting takes that cue and repeats it through your channels. It pushes the same game moment with fresh timing, new wording, and a personalized reason to believe this time. The emotional shift toward anger is often the price of chasing a cue that keeps promising relief. F. Skinner's research on operant conditioning showed how reward schedules shape persistence. In a variable ratio schedule, the reward comes after an unpredictable number of attempts. That unpredictability makes the behavior hard to extinguish. It keeps working even after the organism learns the reward rate is limited. Watch how a random rule monster can keep effort alive longer than a guaranteed a no. Your brain hates wasting attempts, yet variable rewards keep your system searching for the next rainbow. That is how a casino floor can keep people seated. A win is not constant, but the possibility is constant. Live service feeds borrow that structure by making the next reward moment feel variable. One run drops a legendary. The next run drops nothing, but the notification says the season bonus is. The feed then reshapes what a close means based on what you did last time. The rage is the frustration of a system that is always adjusting the odds. Kahneman and Tversky introduced prospect theory, and a key piece is loss aversion. People tend to feel losses more strongly than equivalent gains. Missing out hurts more than finishing gives. It is why an abandoned cart feels heavier than a coupon feels light. Notice how a not getting it hits harder than a getting it. That lost feeling makes you check, requeue, and recommit. In real life, it is the late-night urge to refresh a tracking page. The package was never guaranteed, but the failure to arrive feels like an active loss. Game feeds lean into that psychology, with time-limited progress bars and a catch-up offer. When the game frames progress as something you might lose, you start treating each session like damage control. Anger becomes the emotion that says, "This matters enough to be upset." In addiction neuroscience, Nora Volkow and colleagues have argued that dopamine signaling changes when behavior becomes compulsive. The brain may shift from a reward pleasure to a craving and seeking. That shift matters because live service games do not only sell fun, they sell a reason to keep checking. Track how craving can override enjoyment when dopamine is tuned to cues. You can feel tired yet still chase the next session because the cue predicts relief. In everyday life, that is the compulsive scroll. You know it is not fixing anything, but the refresh impulse keeps returning. Dopamine retargeting uses your behavior as a map for cues that already work. The feed updates what it shows you, so the cue hits closer to your personal triggers. When rage pops up, it often signals high cue power under pressure. Not just anger at the game. World of Warcraft has long used weekly resets to structure player behavior. When the Mythic Plus dungeon pool or raid schedule flips every week, the game changes what a worth playing means. Hazzikostas, game director at Blizzard, has described these cadence systems as ways to keep content fresh and players oriented. Revisit the last time you felt annoyed at a reset timer, then noticed you logged in anyway. The annoyance is a loss aversion response to wasted time. Epic Games built Fortnite's Battle Pass to keep players returning for staged rewards. Tim Sweeney has emphasized recurring value and ongoing engagement, and the Battle Pass operationalizes that idea through daily and weekly challenges. Each challenge is a small promise that the next session will cash out. Notice how just one more mission feels different from a one more game. The mission language turns frustration into a checklist, and dopamine retargeting loves checklists. You feel progress even when you are stuck, because the feed reframes the stuck state as a step toward the next bar. The players rage at matchmaking swings. The feed can still preserve the check. It highlights a quest that does not require the exact outcome you failed to get. It keeps the prediction error alive, pushes the emotion. The same alert that irritates you also guides you back into the reward timeline.